Welcome back to the Tuesday weekend. We are talking about modifications this week. And even though I wrote most of this outline last week, last night I had the perfect example of a table. 3 people who come in regularly enough, and they had modified basically every dish of food that hit their table. One was a salad with the dressing on side. One was the salad with the dressing from another salad. And extra blue cheese crumbles on the side. One of the diners wanted the salmon, but with the vegetable and potato setup that goes with the steak. One of the ladies always wants a baked potato, and we're an Italian restaurant. We do not have baked potatoes, so the server literally had to go to one of the other restaurants in the building to get it.
Oh dear.
No, they didn't. They didn't have to do that at all. That's what we don't have that.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. It's like someone did it one time, and that ruins everything when someone does it one time.
Because of one.
And I tell people, don't do this because it's a slow Tuesday in February. Nothing's happening today. When they show up in July and we're on a 3-hour wait and they ask for the same thing, it's going to stop the kitchen. It's going to stop the bar. I mean, be consistent.
Russ used to do that for us. Russ hasn't worked here in 6 months, and even if he did, I would tell him not tonight.
Yeah, you do it the one time, and then they just expect it, and then they start pushing on that.
Well, and I do want to make a distinction, because I don't bring this up just to say, oh, how annoying, but I actually want to look at what happens when your table modifies their order. So first, I'll just run down the list, and then we'll kind of look at these individually. It takes longer to take the order. It takes longer to ring in the order. There is a huge space for misinterpretation between the guest, the server, and the kitchen. And the more you modify, the greater the chance that something will not be right when it comes back. Then in the kitchen, there's the having to read the tickets multiple times to make sure you're correct. But then you're also working against the muscle memory, which is really the cook's best friend. It's how you move quickly and efficiently, because your body knows what the next step needs to be. And if you have to stop and check the ticket again, then you're just breaking all that muscle memory. So let's start again with it takes longer to take the order. So do you think it's possible that, can you ask the kitchen if it's a busy night, we don't have time to ask the kitchen. Chef doesn't have time to answer your question. I don't know.
So if you're in a situation where you need to ask the kitchen whether or not something is happening, usually we're pretty accommodating if it's an allergen. Like we'll even, like in certain circumstances, I worked at a buffet style restaurant. Someone had allergen problems, and we sent out our chef, and she talked to them. But if you're asking for special service and you want the chef to come out to talk to you, and you present it as if it's a big deal, like you have an allergen, but it's just modifications, then you have wasted your time. This is going to take longer to get the food. The chef's time, because the chef came out to talk to you. Your server's time, because the server wants to accommodate you, but now you're holding up their time by having the chef come out to talk about a modification that you don't actually need because you're not actually allergic to the item. And then the kitchen's time, because they could be making your food right now, but they're not. So like in that type of circumstance at the buffet style restaurant that I used to work at, it's very detrimental. So it's like, oh, could you go ask the kitchen? That's already like, are you aware of the fact that you're in a dining room? Are you aware of the fact that there's other guests? Are you aware that we have ticket times? Are you aware that your food will take longer? Right. So like right off the bat, if it's a modification that is not an allergen that you need to go talk to somebody about, it's probably not a modification you should make.
Right.
If you're not definitely allergic to the item, if you won't break out in hives, if it's not a real dietary restriction, your doctor's saying don't eat this, then talking to the chef or talking to the kitchen is just detrimental to everyone else's experience at the restaurant at that time. So please just be more thoughtful for the other customers in the room.
The 6 words that I do not like to hear ever is, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because first off, that's a goddamn question.
Yep.
And you're at that point, you've already started wasting my time, because instead of just being a human and communicating normally, as in, can I get a Manhattan with this instead of this? Can I ask you a question? Sure. How do you make your Manhattans properly? Oh, that's funny. And I'm like, no, I follow the basic recipe. I make just a regular Manhattan. Oh, can you do this instead? And when they ask can, that's just they want something different. They also, a lot of times when they ask in cocktails, especially when people start trying to modify drinks, it's like the age old one as well. Oh, make it tall instead of just a normal glass. And like, here you go. I'm like, well, there's a lot of mixer in this. And I'm like, yeah, it's a bigger glass. You get more mixer. You get the same amount of alcohol in every drink. And they will without fail say, well, at my other bar, when I was for a tall, I get it double. And I'm like, well, then go drink there.
Yeah. Or
because
ask
we don't
for
do
a double, and then I will charge you for
more. Can you make it a little stronger? Put more in there? And I'm like, do you want a double? No. And I'm like, then no.
Yeah.
But same thing. It's, can I ask you a question? I'm just like, here we go. And it's always, can you do this? Or I'm allergic to this. And people don't understand. I'm like, you're allergic to onions? Yeah. Are you allergic to garlic? No. And I'm like, then you're not allergic to onions. Right. And they're like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, it's the same damn thing.
System. They're all part of the allium family. So
exactly.
If you're allergic to onions, you're usually allergic to garlic, which means you're usually
allergic to all of that.
Yes, because they're all the same vegetable family.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just because you don't like something doesn't mean you have an allergy to it.
Right. Right. And respect me as an adult. Don't lie to me. You can tell me you don't care for something, and I will react to that appropriately. It's fine for you to not like something. You don't need to lie to me and tell me you're allergic to something. You know what? To make it so I take it more seriously. If you ask me and I can do it, I will.
So in that perspective, like if someone said, I'm allergic to onions, and someone's getting a salad with chicken on it. So the dressing might have garlic in it. So if you're allergic to onions, you can't have garlic. So then we can't use that dressing. We have to change our board. We have to change our gloves. We have to clean our utensils. But the truth was, you just dislike onions. So like in that circumstance, if you just dislike onions, the kitchen would just switch the bowl and make the salad there.
Well, and what if there was a little bit of onion powder in the seasoning mix that went on the chicken before it was grilled?
Right. There's all different types of situations. So like when it comes to modifications and you have dislikes, just be straight up with your server, be straight up with your bartender. Like, hey, I don't care for this. Like, don't go and say, oh, I have an allergy, because then the kitchen has to do so much more work to make sure that we're not cross-contaminating and harming our customer. We care about the food that we bring out. And we don't want you to go into an epileptic shock because there was onion in the dressing.
We don't.
That being said, a lot of people, they think salad is salad. It magically comes together.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think of it as individual ingredients that have been added to something. And sauces are more so. Dressings are more so, where there's a whole bunch of ingredients in this. It's not just ranch dressing isn't just like 3 ingredients. You know, or like you said, there could be onion powder on what you cook the chicken in. There's a million different things depending on the place you work.
Yes.
Because it's always going to be different. Most of the restaurants I've worked at in the last, say, decade or so, there's always a book back in the kitchen. So instead of having to stop and ask the cook, hey, what's in this? You just go back and just, okay, what's in this fish dish? And then this, go down the sauces, and it'll have allergens next, like on the page, like this is what people could be allergic to. And there's things in red that like this cannot be substituted because it's already in the sauce. You know, it's already in the glaze. It's and food for you guys and drinks for me, when people substitute, it's not going to taste right. I mean, I would say half the time I get substitutions, they're like, I don't like this. And I'm like, well, that's what you asked for.
Oh, geez. At the steakhouse last year, I was managing a night over there, just filling in for the manager who was on PTO. And that weekend, chef was doing this really nice broiled lobster tail, where essentially put it under the salamander and cooks it there. And this woman insisted he bake it instead of broil it. And then complained about the texture when it came out.
Okay. So
and it's like, lady, that's on you. You chose that.
And that it is another thing when it comes to modifications and on the difference of cooking items. This annoys me very much because like there's a reason why we made the dish with this certain cooking technique. So if you're suddenly asking for a different cooking technique, you're gonna get it, and it's not gonna be what it's supposed to be. Like it's just not. Like if I have a fried tofu stir fry and we deep fry the tofu, and then you suddenly want the tofu sauteed instead, and then when you get it and the sauce doesn't stick to your tofu and you're real confused, like the dish isn't what it was supposed to be. So
well, and I think it's especially offensive to modify a special. Like
Yes.
if chef is putting together a plate of food, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why all those components usually are on that plate.
So as I said again, like with the exception of allergies, like if you don't like a specific component, especially for a special of the day, just don't order that item. It's as simple as that. Just order something else. There's a menu. There's plenty of items. If you look at the menu, you literally sit down, look at the menu, and decide that you don't want to eat anything, then you can get up and go. That's totally acceptable. I'm pretty sure your server won't be that mad at you.
Well, and
this haven't wasted their time.
This goes back to the opening, like with Burger King and Josh was saying, people show up to a seafood restaurant expecting pasta. They show up to an Italian place expecting a baked potato. They've been conditioned to like, I can get whatever I want to when I sit down in a place because I'm here spending money and you need to take care of me, and that's it. And this goes back to one of my favorite lines that customers use all the time. The customer is always right. Now, the history of the customer is always right is not what you think it is. It is literally the marketing slogan for Sears and Roebuck mail order company from the mid 1800s. Yeah. Whatever you want, we'll get it for you because the customer is always right. People throw that in my face. So like, the customer is always right. I'm like, the customer is almost always wrong. Yeah. And it's my job to convince them that even though they're wrong, they can still sort of be right.
So it goes back to like the power of the consumer. Like back in the day, the customer was always right. But here's the thing. It's like you can spend your dollars and money however you like. Like if you don't like a menu at a restaurant, this is why I think a lot of restaurants post their menus outside now. You can always walk across the street and go to the place where you like the menu instead of walking into the restaurant with the menu you don't like and deciding to change everything on the menu. Like the power of a customer's dollar is so strong, but there's also so many choices. If there's a taco place, if there's a chicken place, if there's this, there's that, there's Burger King, there's McDonald's, there's Wendy's. You know what those menus are. Or like if there's an Italian restaurant, a really good Mexican restaurant, you know what those menus are. What do you feel like eating? It's your power as a consumer to spend your dollars on what you actually want to eat. So it's the fact that you would go into an Italian restaurant and order a baked potato instead of going to the steakhouse that's down the street. It's
that has baked potatoes. I was sitting in a ramen place and this guy comes in. He's like, hey, yeah, what's your best pizza? And they're like, we're a ramen restaurant. We don't have pizza. They're like, but you're in Little Italy. It's like, and we're a ramen restaurant. We don't have pizza. Like Born and Raised is a steakhouse. They don't have pizza. Ironside is a seafood place. They don't have pizza. We don't have pizza. And the guy was adamant about getting a pizza from him. They literally had to physically kick him out because the guy's like, I'm not leaving until I get a pizza. And they're like, we don't have pizza.
Go to a pizzeria, my friend. Go to a pizzeria.
I demand that your 1-star Michelin restaurant serve me Dino Chicky Nugs because I want Dino Chicky Nugs.
Go to the grocery store, please.
Yeah, the one that gets me is when they just don't even read the menu.
Yeah, like, what is that shit?
It's like, can I get the salmon? Sure. What does that come with? And I'm like, it comes with everything listed below it. And then I even read it to him like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, you don't want the salmon.
Somebody came to the cafe and asked for a burger. We didn't have a burger. We never had a burger. And he's like, I want your burger. What burger? We never served a burger.
I had somebody insisting that they had gotten garlic bread from us recently, and it's like, well, I've only been here about 4 months now, but I've never seen a piece of garlic bread go out of this kitchen. And he was like arguing with me that he had gotten it, and just like, I have no idea what you're even talking about right now.
Where that garlic bread you brought home came from?
Well, okay, we do have bread with roasted garlic in it, but that he was looking for
cheesy bread,
cheesy garlic bread. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, there's plenty more to talk about. I think we're going to take a quick break right here. Leave us some comments because I know there are a lot of different things we are talking about here, and we're going to talk about some more in the next segment.